Testing 1 2 3 4 5. Testing 1 2 3 4 5. Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
I love it.
I want to be out once.
I love it. Grades. Love grades. Oh, I'm sure we've got plenty to talk about. Hey, how you doing? Oh, what a nightmare. I'm sorry. Yeah, they came home the Friday before Christmas. Yeah, so it's been. Has it only been like 3 weeks? Oh my God, it feels like months.
We are late, but we haven't sent out. Hold on. Let me.
So at 7 minutes, give them a 1 minute warning. At 8 minutes, you can give the wrap up signal. That's for each of the 3 seconds.
Chris is doing what? What? Okay. Uh-huh. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Do they have too much headroom on the Y?
Did we?
Well, yes, but your tripod is different now.
Hold on. What is it?
It's
Trib
big,
guest
go
or
as low as the
trib
other.
pub?
You can't ham it down a little.
Sarah, trib guest or trib pub?
Trip up. That's not the issue. The issue is when you go down. You
Come
must
on,
see the
man.
cable. Well, I guess you can do that.
Just makes them look taller.
True, huh? So we're gonna have to open it up for Jamal.
Yeah.
Oh man, this why this I hate these computers. And I don't have an air card and it won't take my password.
Yeah, will you go stand in real quick? Yeah, we definitely have.
There we
one.
go. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jamal.
That's right, Jamel. Get out of here.
Okay. So we're gonna go down to Zoom. Right now,
It's like
it cuts off Jamel's head.
When Jamel enters in, you just look up because then after Jamel's talking, it's usually Omar, so we just cut to the Omar shot.
But then you gotta loosen up right here. To go like that. So, or you can just do the rock, or you can zoom like that. I think so.
Jamel, I'm with a bang. We need a good one from you today.
It's
he's like, okay.
Yeah.
so just
Yeah, please make it not about Tannehill.
There's no way it's not going to be on Tannehill. Somehow, it'll wind up being about
you want it
Tannehill.
to be I find it easier to use that than the push button.
Yeah, I don't like the push button.
You gotta punch in more.
Punch in tighter?
Yeah, look at the bookshelf on the right. There you go.
Hey,
Have a good show.
thank you.
You are
One
Matt
last one.
Lincoln. Matt Lincoln.
2.
There you go. I just tagged you. Boom, boom. Ready to rock.
Great. All right, thanks for hanging on with us. After the show's over, we'll take some of your questions
Yes.
for the OT.
I don't know how we're going to take them because my computer's not working.
We'll find
A
a
way.
way.
Find a way.
Yeah, we'll find a way.
You can't see
So I don't know if
where
that'll
that
be a
bookshelf
permanent.
ends.
Why does my computer not work?
Like that?
Yeah.
You,
You
don't
know what?
want to see it work.
Yeah, you don't want to see where it ends.
Okay.
I'm going to restart.
You got it bland.
I'm going to restart. Save yes.
Is volume up?
Yeah.
And then
Volumes.
Give us a signal on what now?
So at 7 minutes, give them 1 minute.
1 minute.
At 8 minutes.
Yeah, I'm struggling to
And that's
get my
all.
computer working to
And
ask
then when
to
they
get
put it
questions.
That's all right. We'll take them on using the hashtag, or someone over there can
All
just
right.
yell them over.
10 minutes. It starts with you 10 minutes.
Okay.
These grades, do you want to do them
All
as
right.
units or as players specifically?
Units,
Good
time.
not players.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
All right.
And welcome to one final X's and Omar. This is it. It's over.
2015 season is done.
Just like the last few months we've been mailing in, just like the Dolphins have. But we are going to bring it for one last great show alongside.
Just like the Dolphins did
just
against
like
the
the
Patriots.
Dolphins did. We've got one last one in us too. Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln. We've got a lot to do in this show. We're going to go over some of these coaching candidates, specifically the ones that Omar wants, and also some of the ones that we are hearing.
What about who you want?
Well, you know, I mean, they're not here to know what I want, but I'm going to tell you who I want also.
You're
and
an intricate part of this, Omar.
Thank you.
Let's not forget that.
Well, I'll give you my opinions for sure. Also, we'll talk about some of the movement within the front office, and of course, some grades for the units. We're going to get to that right after. Maybe just some quick words about that final game.
You know what? I was pleasantly surprised. Not pleased, but pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
You know, I was on the tank job.
Right.
I really didn't see any benefit to winning the final game, winning any game of the season. I think having the 5th pick would be a lot better than having the 8th pick. Mm-hmm. You know, that is the equivalent of a 2nd-round pick that you just lost by getting a victory. Okay, great. But I do like the spirited effort that they showed. I do like the consistency that Ryan Tannehill showed in terms of throwing the big play. The one thing that happens when you play the Patriots is Bill Belichick will dare Ryan Tannehill to throw big. He will give him single safety high all game, especially on critical situations, and say, okay, make that throw. Well, Ryan Tannehill made those throws against the Patriots, and it was a pleasant surprise. It was also great to see the defensive line get to Tom Brady and harass him. Mm-hmm. It shows you that blueprint does work in terms of if you can put pressure on Tom Brady and make him feel uncomfortable, make him cry all the time to the referees, you're in the house.
Right.
But I will say this, and I will say it till the day I die. I really don't think the Patriots wanted to win that game.
I don't think. I think they wanted to win the game for a few minutes in the 3rd quarter. I think that was about. They came out in the 3rd quarter. I think what happened was they wanted to go super vanilla.
Yeah.
Run the ball.
And what happened a run game. It was very clear that they were trying to work on their weakness, which was establishing the run against a poor run defense. And it's probably frustrating that it didn't work for them.
Right. And what wound up happening was it invigorated that Dolphins team. All of a sudden, they started sniffing, oh, hey, we can win this game. And then, of course, they went and did it.
Yeah, definitely. But the amount of targets for Rob Gronkowski, you know, the quick passing game, they didn't have a slot receiver that they were really utilizing. All the passes went to the backs. All the runs went to the backs. That's not the way the Patriots play. And then on top of that, in the red zone, against Ryan Tannehill, against the Dolphins' poor offensive line, they rushed 3?
Yeah, right. There was
like, who's rushing 3 against Ryan Tannehill? Like, who does that?
Well, and I'll say this, too. A few times on this show, we've talked about who are we excited for going forward? Who are their guys? You know, it's always like 4 guys. I think we got to add Devontae Parker as a guy who you've got to be excited about going forward. And what he has opposite Jarvis Landry, complementing each other perfectly. You've got 2 great players there.
You know what's interesting about Devontae Parker? Because he really played in the final 6 games of the season. Mm-hmm. And production-wise, when Rashard Matthews went down, here's what Devontae Parker produced. 494 yards, 3 touchdowns on 26 receptions. Now, just double that to, you know, a regular season's worth of production. Right. And it's about 1,100 yards.
It's a really good year. And he's a rookie.
Yes.
And he still wasn't 100% healthy.
Not 100% healthy, not running good routes.
Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball.
I'm not going to say that.
I said it.
Tons of improvements that he needs to make. Tons of things he hasn't learned about the NFL game. And just winging it, 494 yards.
Basically winging it.
That's pretty damn impressive.
Very impressive. But let's talk about the team as a whole. We're going to go through some grades here as we go forward. Why don't we start with quarterback? And as we said, let's talk about these grades a little bit. We're going to talk units.
Yes.
They're not individual players. However, as we talk about the quarterback unit, is going to be
this is a unit thing. And let's start with the quarterback, because clearly that was a position that you expected Ryan Tannehill to take that next step in his development. Mm-hmm. You expected him to become better than a 92 passer rated quarterback. He dropped in completion percentage. He improved in yards per attempt. He touchdowns were pretty much on par with what he did last year. Interceptions on par with what he did last year. Sacks taken were also on par with what he did last year. But overall, 88.7 quarterback rating, just a little bit of a dip. And while he stepped up and in the 4th quarter against New England, played big, helped win that game, got the kill, as I call it, he didn't do it in many instances.
It was a game that didn't matter.
Yeah.
We talked about stepping up in times that matter.
Yeah.
This was a game from beginning to end that didn't matter. So I don't think you can give him credit for stepping up for this big fourth quarter win
Hey,
when the game
he did
mattered
it.
nothing.
All I
In
need
fact,
to
he
do is-
hurts the team with them winning the game.
No, all I need to do is see him do it. He did it. It shows that there is some hope. He's still a quarterback that can be polished up, cleaned up. Look at your face. Look at your face.
Okay.
It's 64 starts in. All the tools are there. He needs somebody who can polish him up, clean him up, and help him get to the next level. Can't say that he's been well coached throughout his career. And I'm not using that as an excuse because I don't give excuses to Ryan Tannehill, much less anybody else. Offensive line can certainly be better. At the end of the season, you're playing with Jason Fox.
God, it was so bad. It's so bad.
You know, if he would have had Juwan James for the end of the year, maybe things would have been different. But
Not dramatically different.
not dramatically different, but different. Let's get to the next unit.
Okay.
Tailbacks. Lamar Miller, Jay Ajayi. Lamar Miller rushed for 872 yards, 8 touchdowns, scored 10 total touchdowns. Second on the team in receptions. For that, I got to give never gave a grade to a quarterback.
No,
I'm going to give a quarterback a grade of a C. I'm going to give Lamar Miller a grade of a C+, and the backs a grade of a C+. I don't necessarily like what I saw at the end of the season with Jay Ajayi, 3.8 yards per carry. That's certainly something he could do better than. But for their opportunities, I thought they did a decent job. The problem is they only got very few opportunities.
You can't hold that against them. You're
Hey.
building that into their grade, I feel like. This is
if you would have done
unfair.
better on first down, maybe you would have had more rushing attempts.
Okay. I'll buy that.
All right. Receiver, got to give them an A. No
Yeah.
question about it. That unit drastically improved. Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Rashard Matthews, even Kenny Stills. I thought they were the best coached unit on the entire team. I thought they showed up every single weekend. And I got to give them, for what they were working with, I got to give them an A. Then we get to the tight ends. Going to give that unit an F. Jordan Cameron,
F.
invisible the entire season. Deion Sims did not take that next step, which is what I expected. Offensive line, got to give them a Z. You know, you could
Whatever is
say,
the worst you could possibly be.
it was a disaster, and I blame a lot of it on injuries. I blame a lot of it on Jamil Douglas starting early in the season, then having to come in and fill in as a center. He wasn't ready to be an NFL starter. Clearly, they got to improve the interior of the offensive line. And your three key components, Brandon Albert, Mike Pouncey, Juwan James, they got to stay healthy. And you got to fortify the depth with a backup center and a backup offensive tackle. Defensively, got to give the defensive line an F.
Wow.
Not enough pass rushing pressure, 31 sacks for the entire season. Could not stop the run, giving up 126 rushing yards. No team was run on more than the Miami Dolphins. That deserves an F. Linebackers, gotta go with an F.
Wow, that's a lot of Fs.
A lot of Fs. Jelani Jenkins, Cole Amisi, Calvin Shepard was probably the only redeemable guy in that unit. Finished with over 100 tackles for the first time in his career. Linebackers, their jobs are to give you impactful plays, forced fumbles, sacks, interceptions, fumble recoveries. Jelani Jenkins got one fumble recovery.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Neville Hewitt had made one play.
One interception.
One interception.
I'm talking about the starters.
Okay.
Cornerbacks. I'm going to go with a D.
It's almost like you got to give him sort of like a split grade. It's like Grimes' grade and then everyone else's grade.
No, because they all get lumped in together.
they'll get lumped in
But
together.
here's the problem where I sort of curve the grade for the cornerbacks, and it doesn't help that opposing teams have a 97.4 pass rating. Here's what the cornerbacks had to work with, and people are going to look at this as an excuse. But it's kind of hard to cover a receiver all day when your offensive line is getting no quarterback pressure. I mean, your defensive line is getting no quarterback pressure. That was from early in the season. We're talking about Blake Bortles had all day to throw. Linebackers couldn't cover tight end, couldn't cover a running back. So there's gaps out there on the entire field. Safety help, non-existent the entire season, and that includes Rashad Jones, who, for impactful player,
Huge.
huge impactful player, could not be trusted to be where he's supposed to be on every play. And that leads to insecurity on the cornerbacks because they're thinking they got help over the top, and there's no help. So I'm going to have to give them, the cornerbacks, a D. I'm going to give the safeties a C because after they lost Louis Delmas, there really wasn't much to work with. Rashad Jones was the top playmaker on that defense. He showed up. Covering Gronkowski in that final game, he certainly helped the Dolphins beat the Patriots. He helped the Dolphins pull off a win against, I believe it was the Eagles. You know, Rashad Jones played big, and so for that alone, he's carrying that unit to a C.
Great. And special teams kickers? You want to go that way?
Nah, nobody cares about kickers.
Okay.
I will give coaches a grade now. Woo, Lord.
Oh, no. Why bother?
I am going to have to give everybody, including Joe Philbin, Dan Campbell, Bill Lazor, who is the defensive coordinator? How quickly? Coyle, Kevin Coyle. F.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, and it's nice that Dan Campbell is being considered for the head coaching job. Bravo to him. Bravo, bravo. But Dan Campbell had 12 games, 13 weeks to fix a problem, any problem. You choose the problem, just fix it.
Nothing.
The only thing I will say that got fixed this season is Ryan Tannehill, when Dan Campbell became the quarterback, he became a more aggressive passer. Ryan Tannehill saw it and he pulled the trigger, which is something that he's never done in the previous 3 years of his career. He wasn't an aggressive thrower. He became an aggressive thrower, hurt his numbers a little bit, but he did produce more 20-plus yard passes, more 40-yard passes. And I give him props for that because I didn't think he could do it.
All right, let's take a Twitter question real quick from Wayne Cox. Number one reason for lack of success is poor draft history since 2000. True or false?
False. I think the number one reason for lack of success is that your quarterback play isn't elevating the level of your team in general. If you just look at the commonalities of Dolphins' struggles since Dan Marino walked out the door and retired, with the exception of the 2008, it's been lackluster to mediocre quarterback play. There's nobody that he's making better. And that's not to blame Ryan Tannehill, because certainly if you had a better quarterback, then Jarvis Landry would look better. Then your offensive line would look better because you had pocket presence. Then some of your tight ends would look better because maybe you developed some chemistry. Then your defense would look better because they wouldn't be on the field as much. The Dolphins kicked the fewest field goals, kicked the most punts in the NFL. One of the worst teams on third downs. One of the worst teams in the fourth quarter. A lot of those are on the quarterback. No offense. A lot of that is on the offense. The offense is on the quarterback.
All right, let's take one more from Tony G. Do Chris McCain and or Jelani Jenkins have an upside with a new scheme?
I don't think Jenkins matters what scheme he's in. If he's in a 3-4, he's going to be the inside linebacker. If he's in a 4-3, he can be the weak side linebacker. Chris McCain is probably more suited for a 3-4 scheme, but he can be put on the line as a pass rusher. He can be an elephant in a diverse scheme package. I think it matters for Chris McCain, but Jelani Jenkins not really.
All right, let's move on. We are going to talk some of the changes. We have already had some news. We talked about last week whether or not we thought there might be a Monday press conference with Mike Tannenbaum, as there was a Monday press conference with Mike Tannenbaum.
And Chris Grier.
Yes, Dennis Hickey out the door. Chris Grier is in. What else might happen in that front office here? Is what's going to happen with Don and Eric Stokes?
You know what? Those two individuals have to be on uncertain, shaky ground. Eric Stokes is definitely a quality front office man, a good talent evaluator. I would hate to see him leave just because I think he can be an asset to Chris Grier. But as I always believe, when you make changes, people need to be allowed to surround themselves with a team that makes them successful. This show wouldn't be as successful without you. Sarah, the boss of the show, wouldn't be as successful. Dylan, all of these people are my team. They make us all look good. Now, if you're Chris Grier and you don't have the right team, you don't have people who have your back, who are going to fight for you, who are going to advocate for you, you're going to be set up for failure. So I think Chris Grier should be able to assemble, promote, fire whoever he feels is necessary. This is his team. He's the evaluator. He is the top guy in terms of the evaluation department. Mike Tannenbaum runs football operation, but Chris Grier is responsible for talent. And I'm going to evaluate him based on who he adds to the team, what decisions they make, whether he's the one that got the deal done or not, because that's his talent base. So you need to surround yourself with the right people. Any idea at this point whether Chris Grier is the right man for this job? There are a lot of people in the league who expect him for his football mind. He is the new era of Jeff Ireland. He's the guy who came up and with the silver spoon. His dad was an executive in the league and worked his way up the right way. Props to him for doing that. I'm open-minded. It doesn't really matter to me who is the GM, because ultimately Mike Tannenbaum is the top dog. everything, the head, it's going to flow from the head down. I still believe that there could be a possibility a coach who gets final say power or authority. I don't think that's out of the question depending on who they're pursuing. So I don't know how the dynamics is going to be structured, but I found it refreshing, encouraging that Chris Greer admitted dysfunction within the organization did exist. And we're not talking about the dysfunction during the Jeff Ireland era where Tony Sperano and Jeff Ireland, they beefed and they didn't talk for a year.
Right.
We're not talking about the Jeff Ireland, Don Aponte feud where, Don was undermining everything. No, we're talking about today's dysfunction, which was Dennis Hickey got the rug pulled from under him. Mike Tannenbaum came in. Mike Tannenbaum took charge. People don't know who's in charge of what.
Right.
People don't know who pulled what figure.
They're watching the game in different places. They're never seeing the same place together.
You got to watch your back. That was the tone in that organization this year. Got to watch your back because you don't know who's coming for you. And look how many people they fired.
They really could have fired more, and they ran out of guys.
Yeah, they literally ran out of people to fire. It was a dysfunctional organization, and here's part of the problem. When people believe in the league that you are as dysfunctional as the Cleveland Browns, and that is that. Listen.
The Dolphins are lucky the Browns exist.
Yes.
They do well. At least we're not that bad.
Yes.
And the Dolphins can
but
say
you're
at least.
right there. You're right there. You're one of the top three most dysfunctional organizations in the NFL. Right there with the Cleveland Browns and the San Francisco 49ers, who fired their coach after 1 year. You're right there. You got to get out of that pack. You got to change the tone, change the culture to make people feel confident that you know what you're doing. You can market the team right, but can you build it right? And that's my biggest issue with the Dolphins.
We're going to talk about coaches in a minute, but let's take a couple of Twitter questions. Matthew Lee, what are the biggest takeaways from this season, I think, in terms of personnel and the way things
I remember
down?
I did a top 50 things that I learned from this Dolphins season, and it was a disaster.
Those are a lot of things.
Yeah,
I I know it's a year, but still, 50, I hope we all learn 50 things in a year about anything, because that's a lot of things.
To me, it starts with football is won and lost in the trenches, at the line of scrimmage. It's so sad that they did so much to enhance or improve the defensive line, and they got worse. And Ndamukong Suh didn't help. They allowed more rushing yards than they allowed last year, which was a disaster. As football is won in the line of scrimmage, the offense's problem. A lot of those times, a lot of those plays caused by pressure, caused by negative plays on first or second down, leading you to 3rd and 14, and then it's not all on Ryan Tannehill to bail you out of 3rd and 14, or he can only be expected to do that so often. Critical moments in the red zone, offense fell through. Injuries happened to the offensive line, unit turned to trash.
O-line depth. having depth in the O-line, I think, I'm sure it was one of the 50 because that was huge.
Yeah, and 45 sacks. Ryan Tannehill still owns the crown as the most sacked quarterback for the past 4 years of his NFL career. You got to change that reputation. You got to change that. You got to completely do whatever it takes to fix the offensive line and the defensive line because they're both struggling.
And we say it a lot, but let's say it again. You see all of those scummy quarterbacks that were starting Week 17 because starters got hurt. And Ryan Tannehill keeps on taking those hits and he's spitting out blood, but he's still,
played. I was
he's
shocked
still
that he played
playing.
the season
Incredible.
finale. And that's the one thing you can't say about him. He's a tough quarterback.
Tough guy.
He's a tough guy because he's taken a beating throughout his career, and he keeps on playing.
Yeah.
Now, is he scared to sit and let somebody else play and show you what they can do with the offense? Probably, but commend him for sticking it out 46 straight starts.
Wow. At Bry Guy 4034. Olivia Vernon had 27 quarterback hits this year. That is a record for a 4-3 defensive end, according to ProFootballFocus.com.
Oh, sure.
Should we pay this man and let Cameron Wake walk as a free agent?
Woo! That's a tough question because you're talking about age established versus future and upside. Cameron Wake is going to be playing on the final year, or you hope he's going to be playing on the final year of a $30 million contract that he signed. He's going to be paid $8.4 million. There is no way in my mind, sorry, OV, love you, but there's no way in my mind I could sit there and justify that OV is worth more than $8 million a year. I'm going to let the market set his price. I'm not going to pay him more than $8 million a year, maybe 8.5. I'll be generous and go up to 8.5. If somebody else in the league wants to offer him $8.5 million and guarantee the first 3 years of the deal, it was nice knowing you, OV. Cameron Wake. I am very uncomfortable with Cameron Wake, who's probably the best Dolphins player of this generation since Jason Taylor. I'm uncomfortable with him being cut and going to play elsewhere. Now, Cam Wake will not restructure his contract. You agreed to pay him $8.4 million. If you don't want to honor that, cut him. Let him go see what the open markets has for him. Cameron Wake turned down restructuring his contract before he was injured. Now, it'll be interesting to see if the Dolphins decide we're going to honor the final year of the contract with you at 34 years old and allow you to be a situational pass rusher because he's not an every down player anymore, or we're going to cut you and let you go find work. I think the smarter approach is to keep him. The one thing I would not do is bet against Cam Wake. I just wouldn't. Right. And I've been here with him since 2009, his entire career. If you tell Cam Wake you're not going to be back healthy again, you're not going to be an every down pass rusher.
You're old at 34.
You're old at 34. You just wait. And that's what we've all done, including myself. But I realize when you bet against somebody like that, you're going to lose.
Just look at this season. I mean, for the first, I forget if it was the first 3 or 4 games, and
Yeah.
he's non-existent. And
Non-existent.
He's
and
washed
then-
up. It's all over.
But he was hurt.
And then he exploded for the 2 games.
Got
before.
healthy and 7 sacks in 3 games.
Right. Incredible.
Yeah.
And one
Don't bet against Cam Wake.
One more thing about OV. He might have led the league with 27 quarterback hits, but he also led the league in roughing the passer.
Oh,
so
my
if you're
goodness
going
gracious,
to count
yeah.
all those, take away those hits that were penalties. I don't know if they counted in
He
those
certainly
27.
gained a reputation as a dirty player. I'm not even going, but he
I
did
know.
also have 3 sacks taken away. If
Right.
he didn't have 3 sacks taken away by a lot of them Jamar Taylor penalties, Walt Aikens had 1, he'd be at 10.5. That's $40 million territory.
When you're playing on the line with Ndamukong Suh and you're the dirty player,
Oh.
I don't know. Hey, let's get to what everyone wants to talk about,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's the coaches. Yes. All right. Possible coaches for the Dolphins. We've got a long list. Last time we've been going over them for half
Quite
the
a while.
season. It feels like
we were going over them last year because I do believe that we brought up Mike Shanahan
I
last
think
year.
we probably did. Who is going to be the head coach of the Dolphins in 2016? We were talking about that in 2014. All right, so shall we start with Sean Payton? Let's take a Twitter question from Michael. I don't understand why people are so hyped about Sean Payton for the Dolphins. For a team that is rebuilding, is it worth the pick? And so, yes, if you don't know, Payton is still the head coach of the Saints, and they are shopping him for a second-round pick.
He's ready to step out on his Saints. And the Saints probably are comfortable with him leaving. They owe him $17 million final 2 years of his deal. He's one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL. Things have gone sour in New Orleans. They're capped out, as they've always been, because it's a mess that Sean Payton created, trying to get over the hump. That's what happens. Mike Tannenbaum did it too. He learned that lesson as well. When you try to get over the hump and you start to spend those Hudak coins, money in the future, at some time you got to come up, you got to pay the piper. And they've restructured Drew Brees' deal so much that he's on the books now for $30 million cap hit. That's a lot of money.
For anybody,
Yeah.
for anyone.
And now, Sean Payton, is he worth? The word on the street is that he's worth a second. That they will make the trade for a second-round pick. That comes from Jay Glazer, who is the
Knows his
mouthpiece
stuff.
for Sean Payton. That's the reality of it. And when I list you the second-round picks that the Dolphins have had since 2010, Daniel Thomas. I'm going to give you Koamisi in 2010, Daniel Thomas in 2011, Jonathan Martin in 2012, Jamar Taylor in 2013, Jarvis Landry in 2014, Jordan Phillips in 2015. How many of those guys can you not live without?
All of them but one.
Okay. So Jarvis Landry, your leading receiver, is the one that you say, that's a damn good second-round pick. So for the last 5 years, you've done pretty much without second-round picks. So,
yeah, but that's more an indictment about the general manager than it is. Really,
Okay.
you need to look at all the second-round picks that were taken, not just the ones that the Dolphins screwed up in the last 6 years.
While that is fair, my point to you is, if you give up a second-round pick for a coach that you know can and will develop a quarterback. What's the harm?
He can win a Super Bowl too.
Anybody can win a Super Bowl. He's just done it.
Yeah.
What is the harm in giving up a second-round pick when, if you're talking about at the best, you're going to get Jarvis Landry. At the worst, you're going to get
Jonathan Martin.
Jonathan Martin. Koamisi, like...
Just a guy.
6
Just
years,
a guy.
just a guy. Jordan Phillips, you know, he's had some deflected passes, but is he ready to be an NFL starter moving forward? No, not really. I don't see a problem. To me, the number one priority that the Dolphins should have as an organization is to, one, find a leader of men, and two, find somebody who can develop a quarterback, whether that's Ryan Tannehill or the guy that they're going to add. Find somebody who can, without a doubt, unequivocally make your quarterback better.
Okay, so let's take a look at this list. Let's break them
All
down
right.
here. They've interviewed Detroit Lions defensive coordinator Terrell Austin.
Yes.
Let's start with Austin. What do you like about him? He doesn't have experience as a head coach.
He's one of the guys who have worked and labored in the trenches to build a reputation. He is a Rooney Rule candidate, so this is his second round of interviews. But he fits that Todd Bowles mold. I like defensive coordinators, and I like defensive coordinators because they have had more success in my mind, in my opinion, than everybody else within the league. So the offensive coordinators. What I like about Terrell Austin is he's coached Ndamukong Suh. He knows Ndamukong Suh, who is basically the GM of the Dolphins.
Yeah, right. Sure, yeah, that makes
so
sense.
hopefully Ndamukong Suh would be on board with that.
So wait a minute, but what's more important? Having a defensive guy be the next head coach or having someone who can develop a quarterback? Because those are two different people.
Absolutely. Without a doubt, not really. Marvin Lewis, he's always developed quarterbacks, and he's a defensive guy.
Fair, okay,
you got to be able
one
to
guy.
put together a quality staff. Oh, Bill Belichick, defensive guy. He's got a quarterback. We could keep doing this all day.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wrong.
So it comes down to you have to develop a quarterback. But I think defensive coaches have more success in the league than offensive guys because defensive coaches have to counter for the offense so they know what works. They know what gives them issues, as opposed to offense going vice versa.
And we've talked about that offensive coordinators have their heads in playbooks all the time, and the defensive coordinators are the ones out yelling at guys.
Definitely.
All right, next, Bears offensive coordinator Adam Gase. Hot guy. He's going to get a job somewhere.
I hate the hot guy.
Yeah, he's the hot guy.
I hate the hot guy. And here's the reason why I hate the hot guy. Because the media creates the hot guy. And it's about the guy who has done enough, leaked enough, given enough information that all of a sudden, or has the right age, and all of a sudden, he's got to get a job.
Yeah.
Why is everybody backing up a Brinks truck for Adam Gase? What has he done? He helped Jay Cutler clean up his game?
Yeah,
Isn't Jay Cutler like a quarterback with elite talent who's just a head case?
And he coached Peyton Manning a Hall
And
of
he
Famer.
coached Peyton Manning, and he won with Tim Tebow. Oh, gee. None of that excites me about him. And here's my question. A lot of people love him. A lot of people talk him up a great deal. Great for that. Where's the proof that he can be a leader of men? I don't know. I don't see any. But, you know, that's just my personal opinion. Another candidate is Bills' assistant head coach, Anthony Lynn, who is talking with the Dolphins on Wednesday, today, with Doug Marrone, who's the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's another candidate. Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line coach, former Buffalo Bills coach. They're both interviewing. Anthony Lynn, former running back in the NFL, emotional, charge guy. He is the Dan Campbell of the NFL. No head coaching experience. Might be a little bit too early for him right now.
Quarterback developer or, maybe
No,
I don't know
defensive
about
guy.
that one.
Doug Marrone, I'm intrigued. I like Doug Marrone. I thought he did pretty well in Buffalo, but let's not pretend like Buffalo in his 2 seasons there was some dynamic team or unbeatable team. No, he was just a guy. I need a guy that has some belief and conviction that he can be better than Bill Belichick.
I see Doug Marrone, and I don't think that's the guy who can win a Super Bowl.
And let's not pretend like he made Jacksonville a hot team. Jacksonville was just okay. Now, they did beat the Dolphins, so hey. Josh McDaniels and Patriots defensive coordinator Matt Patricia. Asking around to people who cover the Patriots, they don't believe that either one of those guys are ready. And
I don't think Patricia's ready at all.
no.
The question is, does McDaniels think he's ready?
McDaniels fits the mold of the guy that I like, somebody who's failed, who's done it already, who's learned from his failures. But his ego got in the way a lot in Denver, and I have a hard time believing that working with Tom Brady for all these years makes you instantly
Head coach material.
Head coach material. I'm sorry, but you're working with a Hall of Fame quarterback. You're working with one of the best of all time.
Right.
I have no doubt in my mind that Josh McDaniel would be a bad fit for the Dolphins. Then you get to some of the veteran coaches. Mike Shanahan, Falcons head coach Mike Smith, and then veteran head coach Dan Campbell. He is. I like Mike Shanahan for this reason. I liked him last year. One, he can develop quarterbacks. Two, this offense that he runs, physical rushing attack, zone blocking scheme, West Coast play action fit for play action quarterback. That's perfect for Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about a perfect offense for Ryan Tannehill. Or this guy has gone out and he's drafted and developed quarterbacks. He can do that. So, ego, struggles, failures, has he learned from it? Now we get to Falcons coach Mike Smith, former Falcons coach Mike Smith. Didn't really see anything special about him when he was with the Falcons. Nice guy. I even like him as a professional. Doesn't have a commanding presence. I have concerns whether or not he can build a top-tier coaching staff again. Not even again, for the first time. Just don't see it. Don't see it. And Dan Campbell, as I said earlier in the show, nice guy. Gives a great press conference. Full of emotion. What he's not full of is solutions.
Yeah.
There is no issue that Dan Campbell inherited from Joe Philbin that got fixed in 2015 in 13 weeks.
We got a Twitter question from Mac about Campbell. I really like Dan Campbell, but your assessment when he took over was spot on. Why is he a couple years away from being ready as a head coach?
Because he hasn't learned what it takes to be successful in terms of managing his time, in terms of managing. He works well with players. He can motivate. But there's a lot of things that go involved with head coaching that I don't think he's prepared for or wasn't prepared, and admitted that he wasn't prepared for. I think he's probably maybe 5 years away from learning from a guy, maybe 2 years away from running his own offense. And once he does that and he proves that he can run a successful offense, and he proves that he can run, he's learned from a good manager, I think he'll be ready.
Okay.
He's a talented coach. He's good. You could see the potential there. He's just not ready.
Right.
He's a little bit too green.
I got two questions. What about Tom Coughlin? Would you make that phone call?
I would not make that phone call, primarily for two things. And I know I bring up age a lot when people bring up, people bring up the age of Mike Shanahan. You do realize Mike Shanahan's 63, Nick Saban is 64. If Nick Saban decided tomorrow he wanted to coach the NFL, there'd be 5 teams
Right.
lining up for him. I don't think age is that much of a factor, but at 70, we're pushing a little bit in the early 60s. At 70, do I think that he's going to give me a good 4-year run? No. I also don't think he's going to be able to put together a quality staff. There are personality quirks with Tom Coughlin that I just don't think fit in down here. And I'm not saying that the Dolphins don't need a head-busting coach, but too many times you could see players try to run out a coach just because they don't like the ship that they're running. And I could see that happening with Tom Coughlin.
All right, you talk McDaniel, Patricia, Hugh Jackson, Mike Shula. We've talked about the Dolphins wanting to do this quickly and maybe happening as soon as next week, 2 weeks from now, maybe 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now.
Will they wait on some of these guys that are still coaching? in the
Absolutely.
playoffs?
I think if you don't wait on Hugh Jackson, you're probably making a mistake. I think Hugh Jackson fits the mold. I put out a list early this morning of everything that I'm looking for in a head coach. And it's really just had to think about it. Had to think about the things that lead to success in the NFL. And quarterback guru. I want a defensive background. I want a guy who's failed already. I want a guy who's a leader of men. Hugh Jackson fits all those molds. He fits 5 of the 6 molds that I'm looking for a head coach. So I think the Dolphins would be doing a disservice to actually get rid of him.
Last time
One
I had-
last time.
You know,
All
I
right,
had to hit
great.
you
I
with-
hope you got a good one for us.
This one is unfortunately about Ryan Tannehill. No, I'm kidding. So earlier you said it wouldn't be a problem if the Dolphins get Sean Payton,
But Robert DiOrio says, no way, Sean Payton hasn't done anything in years with a much better cast of players. This team has too many holes and will struggle with cap
Sean
space.
Payton's put together back-to-back 7-9 seasons. He won 11 games in 2013. He was suspended 2012 for a Bountygate scandal. The defense really fell apart last year, and that's really what fell apart the last 2 years. I think Sean Payton's a quality coach.
I think he is too.
He's young. He's talented. He's developed quarterbacks. He helped Tony Romo before Tony Romo actually took the next step. He's helped Drew Brees become an elite quarterback. Drew Brees is also probably going to be on the market. Where he ends up might be where Sean Payton ends up. I'm just saying.
Let's one last question, because you've talked about it a lot this year, that you like guys on their second chance.
Yes.
From Twitter, Rick asks, can you explain why hiring a previously fired head coach is a good choice? Didn't they already fail before? Why would it be any different now?
Because you've learned from your failures. You've also established relationships with coaches that have worked for you, so they know who you are, the reputation's out there. It's easier for you to assemble a good quality staff. The one issue that I've always seen with head coaches, newbie head coaches, is they struggle to put together good staff, especially good staff on their own. Tony Sparano put together a good staff early because he had the muscle of Bill Parcells backing him. You want to be part of that Parcells brand. You need to be part of that Parcells brand. Look where it takes Mike Tannenbaum. Look where it takes Chris Greer. Look, Jeff Ireland's a damn GM again.
Right.
You need Bill Parcells. It's like the mob. Mm-hmm. He anoints you, taps you on your shoulder, you're ready. A head coach, Joe Philbin, staff, mediocre. The next head coach of the Miami Dolphins, if he doesn't have any head coaching experience,
same thing.
I'm going to expect it to be a mediocre staff as well.
Gut feeling. Do you know who do you think they're going to hire? Not who do you want them to hire? Who do you think they're going to hire?
Steve Ross is a big game hunter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does. That's what he likes. Now, I have a feeling the game is Sean Payton. They will do what it takes. He's so tired of being considered a buffoon, so tired of losing, so tired of having mediocre quarterbacks.
His team is one of the three most dysfunctional teams.
Yeah, so tired of having the Dolphins having the reputation of the most dysfunctional team. When Steve Ross wants to win, you know when he wants to win? When it's time for him to bid. And he's like, I can win this because it's bidding. Now, unfortunately, with some of his coaching hires, it didn't come down to money. I think some of these coaching hires are probably going to come down to money and the situation.
Steve Ross won't lose that.
No, he's lost them before. I think that this is his final chance to get it right.
Yeah.
You got to go with the safest thing, and to me, the safest thing is a Sean Payton. If you don't go with Sean Payton, then it's probably Mike Shanahan. If you don't go with Mike Shanahan, then it's probably the hot offensive coordinator, either Adam Gase or Hugh Jackson. To me, the best pick is Hugh Jackson. But who am I?
You're Omar Kelly, Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist. Thank you so much for watching us this season.
Absolutely.
This is it. We're not having any more. Well, we might sprinkle, maybe, I don't know, a draft show. I don't know. I'm not the boss of this thing. They'll tell us when we're supposed to be here. But if you want to talk Dolphins offseason, Sports with Perk, you can find it right here on sunsentinel.com. Another show. Omar, you're going to do a little Sports with Perk right
I'm
on
going to
there.
be doing some Sports with Perk.
And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Omar Kelly.
We'll be playing What the Hell Are You Talking About, Omar? Which is a fun game.
What the hell is Perk talking about with his column that he wrote yesterday? Make sure you read that about Ryan Tannehill, because I don't know. You need to debate what he just had on there. But
I think you can win with Ryan Tannehill. You just need a 2,000-yard rushing attack and a great defense.
We have to wrap this up. Thank you so much for all your great questions all season long. Our crew, thank you all so much for making this an incredible show that we've had. But it's all because of you and your questions, and it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Overtime?
Yeah. If you're watching us now, stay on. We'll take some more of your questions in the chat or on Twitter using the hashtag XOMAR. Have a great off season.
We're glad that you've been here all year. Hopefully I will ask the questions using the hashtag on Twitter. My computer is not working at the present moment, so
All right.
hopefully we can get into. We did have one leftover
Yes,
question.
we did. This was from Fins for Life 954. Do you think there's a chance Dolphins go to Alex Mack and move Pouncey to guard?
Absolutely not. You can't pay two guys, add two centers making the highest money in the NFL. Pouncey's a center. It shouldn't be that hard to find a guard. I know the Dolphins have struggled with it for since 2009. It shouldn't be that hard to find a guard.
Is there anyone out there that anyone pops to mind of offensive lineman that could come in here and help
I
immediately?
honestly haven't even looked at the free agency pool.
Okay.
It should not be that hard to find a guard. Let me go to some of these questions here.
I'll grab some. I'll get it
Okay,
right
go ahead.
here. We're having some issues with the chat, pulling it up right now, so send us some on Twitter. Keeb. Anyone as a head coach can win a Super Bowl? Please explain what you really meant.
Anyone, I mean, it has to be the right situation, it has to be the right quarterback. I really do believe that the elite quarterbacks, if the team is built right, can lead you to a Super Bowl. Like I say right now, despite all the injuries that the Steelers have had, they're the team. They're the team you should fear.
Right.
Which is why part of the reason I think the Patriots tanked to try to avoid Pittsburgh, because you don't want to play Pittsburgh.
No, you don't.
You don't want to play Pittsburgh, and the Patriots just somehow, some way, ensured that they weren't going to play Pittsburgh until the AFC Championship game.
Right. Hey, the Pats hate the Jets, right? It's a very contentious, and Pats found a way to. Well, the Jets thought they were getting the one over by beating them, and then Jets find a way to somehow screw the Pats by losing the final week. That's probably not the way that worked. But anyway. Keeb sent us a bunch of questions. Very active. Keeb wants his name out there. Keeb Khan. Should the Dolphins look for good quantity over top-tier quality
No.
in free agency this offseason?
Absolutely not.
How about, do you believe the Dolphins will truly have competition at every position?
Hell no, because they've never done it before throughout my career of covering a team. They're always scared of quarterbacks competing for their position, and I don't see any reason why to believe differently. Until they draft a quarterback or trade for Drew Brees, I'm not believing it. I'm not buying it.
We've talked about it a few times, but is there a free agent quarterback that you like out there to bring in here and challenge Tanner? Because we don't like RG3, don't really like Cap.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is a free agent. I'm not.
I think. Oh, you
Trust
kidding
to
me?
go
They
for
are
it.
in love with him now. There's
Yeah,
no
but
way
are you
the
going to
Reds.
give him a $95 million contract?
They are.
Oh
They are.
man, I love
They are.
Kirk Cousins, but what I like about this free agent class right now, Kirk Cousins and Bradford, they're going to be decent starting quarterbacks out there, and they're going to be able to get a realistic market of what what a quarterback is really worth. Not these shakedown deals that Ryan
Right.
Tannehill and Alex Smith and Andy Dalton have gotten. No, he's a free agent. Everybody is bidding. Here's what the highest bid is.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes in that realistically these quarterbacks are realistically getting 5-year, $70 million deals, everybody will be like, wait a minute. We don't have to pay quarterbacks $100 million? The market has to be reset. Our market has been reset at just about every position in the NFL but quarterback. It just keeps escalating. And some team needs to reset it by saying, you know what? We're not going to franchise tag you, Kirk Cousins. We're going to let the market determine what your price is.
I don't know.
And I hope it's Kirk Cousins.
I don't know, especially if the Redskins find. I think the Redskins are going to beat Green Bay this weekend.
Oh, come on, man. Green
Have
Bay.
you watched how bad the Pack have been the last 10 games? They should have been.
They've
they
got some issues.
really bad.
Yeah.
How about a Lippett question?
Oh, well. Let's go for
You think
it.
his primary position should be safety?
No, he's not a safety. He's about this big. Tony Lippett has played quite well in the last 3 games. I was very encouraged by what I've seen. He rises to the occasion, which is it's a trait that Bill Parcells decided to bring him up. But the puppy got a bite, and Tony Lippett bites. And that's what you need to see. You need to see young players bite and actually play well when the spotlight's on them. And Tony Lippett does that. He did it at Michigan State as a receiver. He did it with the Dolphins in the final 3 games as a cornerback. I'm intrigued to see where he develops. Now, am I ready to say he's a starter? Hell no. But you might not have an entire one starting cornerback on your team if you decide to cut Brent Grimes.
Right.
Not one. I mean, a lot of guys, but hell, Nolan Carroll might be a good idea to re-sign.
Oh.
That's how bad your cornerback unit will turn out to be.
Do you think Bobby McCain less of a chance of panning out than Tony Lippett at this point?
I didn't really see anything special about Bobby McCain when he played. I think they're equal talents. One is tall, one is more athletic and it's quick.
All right, Mr. Perfect MMA. You ready?
Yes.
Who is the most improved player besides Rashard Matthews from this season? Well, first off, is Rashard Matthews the most improved player? And if he is, then
yes.
Who else? Okay, then
no
who
doubt about that. Rashard Matthews deserves a ton of props and credit, and I'm going to enjoy watching him play for somebody else.
Okay. So who beyond him? Because he.
I am going to thoroughly enjoy watching him play for somebody else.
That question is assuming that you were going to say Rashard Matthews. So if it's not Rashard Matthews, who is the next most improved player?
I would say no. I can't say Lamar Miller because Lamar Miller. I mean, he improved as a pass blocker. He improved as a pass catcher. I mean, second on team in receptions. 10 touchdowns this season. Another guy who had really improved before a quad injury sort of handcuffed him was Billy Turner.
Yeah.
Jump-started, sparked the running game. Then, not quad, calf injury. Quadriceps, it was a quadriceps injury. Then quadriceps injury happened, and all of a sudden they can't run the ball anymore. I really thought that he is the one piece of that offensive line that I'm comfortable with on the interior.
You were talking about how you kind of like Dallas Thomas for a little while.
At certain points. But then, Dallas Thomas is the same thing. It's the same thing always with Dallas Thomas. There's going to be 3 to 5 plays that you're just like, oh, damn, did that really just happen? It just got masked over because Jason Fox was, a disaster.
Bigger need, cornerback or linebacker?
Linebacker. No doubt about it, linebacker.
Okay.
You got to have a heat-seeking, instinctive, read and react inside linebacker that can cover. And I thought Kelvin Shepherd did a very good job. I really am very supportive of Kelvin Shepherd because he really played well. And on a lot of those big runs, he wasn't to blame. And if you take those big runs out of the equation, the Dolphins are limiting teams to under 4 yards per carry. But he can't cover. And you need a guy who can cover. You need a guy who can drop back and cover some ground. And that's not Kelvin Shepherd. I would love to see him come back as probably the Sam and, Cole Messi. But you need an inside linebacker. No doubt about it. Here's the thing about cornerbacks. You're not going to have great cornerback play without pass rushing and good safety play. Dolphins have neither.
Okay. Well,
so just put whatever out there and make do until you improve all the other areas.
I feel like we've talked about this, but Carlos wants to know, so we'll talk about it again. What is the percentage chance that Brent Grimes is a Dolphin next year?
I would put it at 30%. You don't just cut good players. Unfortunately, the Dolphins have done that. Yeah. You don't just cut good players. Unfortunately, the Dolphins have done that. Part of the thing about Brent is, does he want to be here? And
No.
Guys at the end of their career, and same thing with Wake. While Wake's, here's the difference with Cam Wake and Brent Grimes. Wake has a South Florida legacy that he can build. Wake might never have to work another day in his life if he continues to play and plays at a high level for the next 2 to 3 years. Brent Grimes is a transplant.
Yeah.
He's not, while this might be home for him in the future, he wants to win. He wants to win. He wants to play for a team that has a chance of winning a championship. And that's not here. So would he be interested in taking a pay cut to go play for somebody else? Absolutely. If he believes that team is going to give him a chance to win a championship. Patriots.
Ooh. And you think and Matthews is definitely gone.
Done, gone, out, goodbye. It was nice knowing you. Matthews is going to find himself a quarterback, and Unless the Dolphins
a
are
quarterback who's not going to break his ribs.
Oh, did you really just say that? Rashard Matthews, there was a contingent of receivers who were not a fan of Ryan Tannehill last year. Rashard Matthews just so happened to be in that contingent of receivers.
But he was the only one who's still around.
He's the only one that's still around. There's going to be a long line of people trying to move on unless they change the quarterback.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so who else is in that contingent that wants to get out of here if Ryan Tannehill is
It's a
starting?
long list. There are a lot of players who don't believe in him, and if he's going to be the guy coming back next year, we're going to be doing more of the same stuff, and all the pressure is going to be on the defense to play 70 snaps a game, and most of them are defensive players.
Most of them are defensive players.
Offensive linemen are tired of the struggles being blamed on them, and a lot of the struggles are blamed on them. Running game, Lamar Miller. I think Lamar Miller has probably the greatest chance of coming back, just because 1, nobody's paying running backs.
Right.
2, this is home for him. 3, the next coach is going to come in here and whisper sweet nothings in his ear about how he's going to be featured and whatnot. And other reason is they don't have a capable backup. Ajay Ajayi, as promising as his 187 rushing yards were on 49 carries, he's fragile.
Right. He's a 5th-round running back. Well, how many of them were chosen before him last year? And again, he's just a guy. He's just a guy too.
Maybe proves us wrong, but I don't know. See it.
They
said that about Lamar Miller too, that he was just a guy.
All right, one more from Keeb, because this is basically what Perk's entire column was about. If the Dolphins hire a good head coach, could they become a playoff team next year?
Yeah, no doubt. If you can get Ryan Tannehill to become a 95 rated quarterback, 95, play big in the third quarter, play big in the red zone, that's just cleaning up his game a little bit. No, that's a lot. It looks like a lot for us.
Yeah.
But for a coach, it's just cleaning up his game a little bit. I mean, the tools are there, the arm is there, pocket presence isn't. Maybe you could help him with that. Maybe you can have an offense that moves him a little bit more than what they've done in the past 4 years. While I say the quarterback is the most important thing, it's also you got to have a coach that can fix the defense, because there's nothing salvageable about the defense. You've only got basically 2 pieces on it that are certain to be back and are very talented, promising players in Ndamukong Suh and Rashad Jones. The rest is like, So you got to be able to fix the defense as well, which is where a defensive guru probably can, come into play. But with Ryan Tannehill, you need a 2,000-yard rushing attack, you need a top 12 defense, and you need him to get to the 95 passer-rated stratosphere, and then you have a playoff team.
I think it's asking a lot.
It is asking a lot. I no doubt about it. I do believe that this offense could have run for 2,000 yards. Just me. I'm wrong.
If with the way that offensive line
if
looked
you
at the
weren't
end of
trailing every first half by you got outscored 96 to 47 in the first half. In the first quarter of games. If you didn't have such a massive deficit and you were more effective on first downs, I would love to know Ryan Tannehill's yards per carry average on first downs. I think that you could have run and been more consistent running the ball, but it just so happened.
At the same time, they weren't that close. A lot of these games were not that close.
No, they weren't that close.
The key games.
You did beat some playoff teams.
We said the whole time, barely. Those teams were barely playoff teams. And the key games were the Jets games and the Buffalo games. Those were the key games the entire season, and they got blown
in the division.
Out.
Yes. You
those
have to go
4
4-2 in your division to give yourself a chance to be in the playoffs. All right. And the Dolphins are not close to that.
That is it. We are done.
Always a pleasure.
That was fantastic.
Excellent
I enjoyed
season.
it.
Thank you.
This was great. We did much better than.
We did all right. We
did
coasted
okay.
at the end, though.
Of course we did.
Everybody did.
It is. But you guys always brought it. Thank you. We're going to keep on answering your questions just on Twitter now. So #XOmar or send them to Omar Kelly, Matt Lincoln TV. You can send them that way.
All righty.
Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us.